guys are live.
Greetings, everyone. Nate the Nerdarch here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and I'm hanging out with some nerds.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Nerdarchist Dave. And we made some adjustments. We're doing some things. We've got the monkeys working an overdrive in the background to bring you guys another live chat. We'll see if we break this one or not. We've been implementing, we've been correcting, we've been doing some things. We're trying to make it work. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, it's just running through, like, a whole bunch of digital tubes
to
get to you, wherever you may be.
But with all that being said, folks, how's everyone doing today? So we got some D&D going on tonight. You did some D&D last night.
Yeah, my as I've said before, this is my jam-packed weekend of gaming. Did the RPG Crate game last night, and with some minor technical issues, learning new software, I thought the game went pretty well. Everybody seemed to have a lot of fun.
I did notice when it first started, it was just your face.
Some people were saying that they were just seeing Scott from Arcana Workshop.
Oh yeah.
And that's on me. Okay, well, it's got to get selected and what have you, and.
You were like, it was like when I looked at it was like the Wizard of Oz when it was just the big head. It was just Ted's big. It was just a big head of Ted. Not that Ted has a big head.
So I'm still trying to figure this out. Hopefully tomorrow's Dungeon World session that I'll be I'm not the DM, but I'll be the one setting that up. So I'll have to make sure that that's running smoother than last night.
Yeah, I'm hoping all the tech goes well for me tonight.
And the tech will be fine for you tonight.
Oh, that's right. We play in person.
And then Monday is session 1 of the new Manera game. And having a chat with some of the players last night, they're like, oh no, going to have to watch. Well, Fragginator's like, well, I'm in the phase rep game.
Yeah, they're going to pick and choose.
Maybe I can get killed so I can go watch Numenera. I'm like, wow, that's kind of a weird way of thinking about it.
Interesting level of devotion there.
But I mean that's what he was looking at. So you'll have to make your choice of whether you watch phase rip or whether you watch Numenera.
Choose wisely. But either way, you can watch them both. Just one of them is going to have to be on demand.
Yeah, well,
only one of those games is 100% interactive, though. Just saying.
One of them could be amazing. We don't know until it winds up going.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
I gotta say, I honestly don't know how it's interactive, but I know it's a thing. I just haven't experienced it myself yet.
That's right. Don't ever show up to the Marvel Phase Rip game without your D100. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes they get to attack us. Sometimes they get to help us. Sometimes they build mech suits that might be more powerful than us. I don't know.
You could, you could, if you have your trusty device, you could have the Nerdarchy dice rolling app and never be without your D100.
That's true, but only if you have an Apple product at the moment.
At the moment, but supposedly there's some work happening. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check in with him. I haven't talked to him in a little while.
Well, he's had some stuff going on for the last couple of sessions because he's a player in my game. He hasn't been able to make it, so that tends to be when we get our chatting in,
our updates. So, how did your game go? Did you TPK him?
I did not TPK. In fact, nobody even dropped this time.
Were you disappointed?
No.
I know you like dropping. Who's cat? 2 minute. Yeah, Jake. Is that from 2 Minute Tabletop?
Yeah. Not 2 Minute Tabletop. Mini Terrain.
Mini Terrain. That's the one. Sorry. Wrong crafter channel. But, I do not craft.
The beginning sessions, while we were trying to work out balance and trying to work out, the number of encounters that are going to be appropriate for the game, it wound up having this whole issue of, Jake getting dropped sometimes from full hit points down in one round. So
as it should be. As it should be.
So the term being jaked became a thing. So we haven't had that happen in a while, and he came ready for bear last night. I'm playing a barbarian, 81 hit points, and he's like, I didn't even get to half. I'm good.
Oh, he didn't play his other character?
It's a series of one shots, so it's not a
That's true, but they could play the same characters at different junctures.
They could, but a lot of the players, they like creating something new because it gives them a chance to test out all the options. With Xanathar's Guide to Everything, we've got so many more choices. So players are like, oh, well, I want to go this, I want to go that way. So,
yeah, I have to figure out what I'm doing in my game tonight. I have no idea. We'll see when everyone shows up. They're going to be looking at me like, I don't know. Rocks falls on everyone.
We're 15th level at this point in time, so it's, you're going to have to deal with something like that. I mean, is there going to be any issues with the refugees from Rylor? Is there going to be any... is there any heat that's going to fall down on us? Does anyone know that it's our fault?
Meteor shower. Not the spell, actual meteors.
So, I mean, there's lots of things that could be done. We could technically begin our own quest of trying to figure out, all right, well, we took care of the temple. Their ritual's not going to go off, but we're going to have to deal with the Empyrean at some point in time.
They're still out there.
So, like, do we then try to take the ball into our own court? Do we go after them in some way, shape, or form? Do we prepare to go after them? So
I think the goblins are preparing to go on the road with a circus.
Yeah, let them do their own thing, and you just start breeding rust monsters. It'll be fine.
I don't think that will go over well for my plate mail.
You don't need plate mail. You have rust monsters.
Half plate.
Yeah, you don't need plate mail. You have rust monsters. No one can stand against those.
No one. Except for naked barbarians that use sticks.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of those about.
So, we could make oxidation beasts if we want to go and
Oxidation beasts.
That's what the Reaper means.
Yes, I like it.
So I'm doing my fan game tomorrow. I think I have 4 players for it, so that's cool. And we're going to be playing Into the Furnace. I'm running a 12th level game. We're going to be playing in Falstaven, roundabouts. Falstaven, yeah. Guys are going to be in the cauldron. See what happens.
Nice.
See if you get cooked. So that should be fun.
So as always, guys, if you have any questions and you want to throw them in the chat, just put question in front of it.
We already got a question from Duba. Before I get into your question, though, I will want to say Season 3 of Savor Dice has begun. It's up there. You can watch the record it. We had almost 200 people, almost 200 people watching live. And there was a bunch of super chats. It was really good. Cody did a good job. I thought he was going to TPK us in the first session. He had us fight like 50 million orcs. And we're 3rd level, so orcs can be a little tough. And in the first battle, I was so mad. I forgot to use my hunter ability.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not take the one that everybody else takes.
Did you take the multiple attacker, the Horde Breaker?
I took Horde Breaker, yeah.
Oh, nice. That would have been great for that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And the next one, it came up, but not as much. So we're having fun with that. I'm really struggling with the voice a little bit because I want to talk in a little bit of a gravelly voice because I'm looking at like Clint Eastwood. Like I listened to like 9 minutes of Clint Eastwood quotes that day beforehand to kind of get ready. But because it's lower and it's a little gravelly, I had to be careful not to slip into worm. So and I'm not that good at voices anyway. So.
And it's halflings, not dwarf. So
yeah.
So you also got to be like that voice without going dwarf.
Yeah, so so I'm trying to channel a little Clint Eastwood and get a little gravelly and talk a little lower and Pilgrim.
I'm still trying to figure out my voice for Zareth, which is my Numenera character.
Are you feeling lucky, punk?
I like how it's a reverse of Lord of the Rings.
I know what you're asking yourself. You see this hand crossbow here, and you're asking, his quiver, did it hold 6 shots or 5?
It looks like 9 minutes was enough.
Yes. Yeah, but then when if I find it really hard to role play and do a voice when someone goes, "Okay, you can hit me with the voice." I'm like, I have to
get ready.
Yeah, I have to kind of be in the character.
You got to work it,
and and be in the situation. But to actually just go I'm just going to talk in the character now in command is definitely not my thing. So, jumping to Dubois' question, I'm playing for the first time next week. Any tips on being a new guy at the table with people you don't know at something you're new to playing? Don't be an asshole. Step one. Be a conservative version of yourself, in the sense that, like, you want to feel out the table to find out, like, take their barometer for what their level of humor is, and
level of humor, level of language, level of boisterousness. So there's some people who they come and they laugh out loud, and it's like, dude, just chill. So like you want to not make a scene. When you're that new guy at the table, you gotta feel it out. You gotta be prepared to make some changes to what you're going to do, and just try to have fun. Try to be a team player.
Be yourself, but just be muted a little bit to just kind of like get the lay of the land, and then see how it goes from there.
So Chris Cook says, "Freaking great channel. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great advice."
Woo!
Thank you.
There was another question, Bards in the Basement. What is everyone's favorite class race combo at the moment?
Next question.
Right now, Halfling Ranger. There's nothing else to play but a Halfling Ranger.
I like Dragonborn Barbarian Sorcerers right now. Because I'm playing one.
We've answered this, so often.
But what is it right now, Ted?
It's the one I'm playing.
I didn't say sinuses.
It's the one I'm playing at the time. That's my favorite.
I want to play my gnome illusionist.
Freckle?
Freckle Gurgle. That's my next.
I'm glad I didn't play with him because it's too hard to not laugh at the name.
Well, that's the point. That's exactly why I made it.
I wouldn't mind playing my gnome illusionist. I only got to play once, and with it, his spellcasting focus was a fishbowl, where he kept his Quipper familiar in it, and he was an urchin, so he also had a mouse.
Nice. Oh.
And he could talk to both of them, and he would have arguments for them. Because the Quipper always wants to eat the mouse.
Well, Freckle was an entertainer, as his background, and he's got the singing mushroom because he was in the one shot that you ran with the Trouble with Prospectors.
Yeah. Oh, guys, if you have to be watching and you are on Twitch and Facebook and it seems like we're ignoring you, we are. We're streaming to 3 platforms: YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. When I operate from the desktop, I have something I can bring up, and it aggregates all the chats, and I can look at them all. But because I am not at the desktop, I'm on my phone, I don't know that I can get an app or anything for that to my phone. So we're just looking at the tubes right now. And also, as always, we put everything that we did in this past week in the description, which isn't going to be on Facebook or on Twitch, but will be over on YouTube, so you can check that out. And we've had to ditch the Kickstarter corner, but don't worry, it's not gone and it is not forgotten. Doug takes that stuff and puts it into a blog post over on the website every Sunday, I believe.
Yep.
So you guys will be able to check it out over there. It will live on. You can find your favorite Kickstarters. You just have to wait till tomorrow and go over to the website and grab that.
Yeah, and that's that's gotten pretty big. There's a lot of stuff going on. Eye of the Beholder is super awesome. That's our friend Brian Stillman and company. You've also got the record-breaking Strongholds and Streaming that Matt Colville is doing. It's actually the biggest RPG-related Kickstarter that's happened to date. So
yes,
cool
it is overtaking. It's overtaking John Wick and 7th Sea, which I'm kind of glad. Nothing personal against John Wick or that game in particular. I don't really know anything about it. All I know is I want to see a D&D game hold the title. Or something.
You're partial to D&D.
I am, yeah. Something revolving around D&D. I want them to hold the title.
Nice. So David Silva, have any of you tried to show a new player D&D Beyond as an introduction for character creation? Would you recommend to do so, or should I let them spend time with the books?
I did it with my son for making a character. He's not really new. He doesn't play that often. Like, he plays once a month in Ted's game when he's here, so...
And he had like 4 or 5 months where he didn't show. So.
Yeah. So it's not... So it was for the game you ran at Christmas, maybe. Mm-hmm. He's like, I need to make a character. I said, here, build it here. And he did. and I don't think he really needed help with anything because it's so intuitive and easy to use. Yep. So I think D&D Beyond is great for getting someone started.
Especially if you already own like a large bundle, like a legendary or something like that, because you can put them in the campaign, give them enable content sharing, so they'll be able to practice making characters for that, like kind of get used to the rule set as well.
Yeah, I haven't shown anybody how to use it yet. I know at some point in time I'll go through it with my son. We did a character together, but I didn't just sit him down in front of the computer and say go. So
yeah, I don't remember how many campaigns you can have going at the same time either. Mm-hmm. So that's something else I have to check out. I know in your game you just set up a campaign. Mm-hmm. In my Scarlet Sisterhood game, I had set up a campaign, and I guess I'll probably end up I should probably set one up for the game we're playing now. But I think some of those players already have access. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I don't want to double up on that.
Absolutely.
I have 2 so far, and it's not complaining or anything. I don't know if there's a limit.
So Kenyatta's aggregating question from Desbar. We will now have 2 Rangers in the party. How would you recommend planning things for each of them that are distinct when they have similar skill sets? I have that in my game. I don't worry about it. As the GM, I don't care. It's up to them to figure that out. Just play your character and have fun. Like it's just part of it. So I don't worry about it too much.
If you set forth the challenges that they have the ability to do, they'll take turns or they'll figure things out. And if you're planning stuff that's going to incorporate the things that they're good at, oh well, I'll assist you this time and you can do it with advantage, and the next time you can assist me and I'll have advantage. There's loads of ways to do it, and it kind of goes back to rule number 1 of don't be a dick, and everybody's gonna have fun.
And if you're like, let's say you're starting off, so they're first level, the Rangers can look very similar, even if one of them decides that they want to do more hand-to-hand fighting and the other one decides to do archery. You don't, until like 3rd or 4th level, you don't really have a lot of choice to delineate the 2 of them. But by the time you get your archetype, by the time you get a feat, your start or skill bumps, stat bumps, sorry, you're getting you can get a lot of variation. So ideally, they're not going to want to make the exact same character, or maybe they do. It's like a thing to them, but I would offer suggestions for the different routes they could take within Ranger. I mean, it's just like fighters. Like, oh, we're both fighters. Well, Eldritch Knight's way different than Battlemaster.
Absolutely. And, even if you'd wind up going same race, same subclass, same background, I mean, just where you place your dump stat or your low stat, that's going to greatly change who your character is. So you've got so many different layers that you can have something be different. And the further the differences are, oh, well, I dumped strength and you dumped wisdom or intelligence. Oh, well, that's a difference there. You have a different race, a different background, and then a different subclass. Well, I mean, you're playing 2 different characters at that point in time. Who cares if you're both built as a ranger?
Exactly.
So we've got a question in here. Where did it go? Here we go. From XTINK. We looked at the Shaman class, and what's our opinions?
I did, but I looked at it a while ago. I don't exactly remember. I don't play enough to like even work through all the different character classes that exist from Watts, let alone to look at the extra ones.
No one in the group has played a Shaman yet.
No one in the group has played a Shaman yet, so we have not seen it at our table. So we don't.
I've looked at it. I think it's pretty cool. I don't remember all of the different nuances of it. I know DFC's got that one, and I think the Alchemist up there for sale and supposedly doing pretty well with it. So what do you guys think of the Shaman class?
Again, I haven't played with
No, I'm asking.
Them.
You guys out there in the internet world.
People out there.
All those people.
So,
what kind of announcements do we have today?
Today's what, the 24th? That means we're bearing down on the end of the month. So if you guys want to get access to the cool Patreon awards that we put together every month, now's your time to do it. We got lots of fun stuff, and Nate read off the list last week, and lots of cool options. I heard you're working on some fun stuff.
Yeah, I've got the Thinglonger for the Mage Forge. We've got Origami Golem for the Monster Menagerie. For Friend or Foe, we have Flim Flam Cur Blastastic Nick, the gnome wizard who kind of invents a dungeon for people to go through for training purposes only. Training purposes only. And the Travel Train is that training purposes only, called the Deader.
And the Lost Lore is going to be a new Warlock.
The Warlock patron, a pact, Nightmare and Dreamscapes.
Very cool. Dave's lost in the chat.
Well, I was trying to go check out the Twitch chat, but there's issues with that. Not with the Twitch itself, but me going over there.
So Aaron Park wants to know, if you make a Yuntai Pureblood Grappler, can you do the Poison Spray cantrip while grappling?
I would have to look and see what the components are for that spell. That would be, if it has somatic, I would say no, you can't use somatic components while grappling. But material and verbal, possibly.
What if you're a warcaster?
But you're not. Yeah, but that just
those are weapons specifically, aren't they? They're objects in your hand
that you can use. Yeah.
Yeah, not a fighting person who's trying to not be grappled.
Uncle Peter, do you guys think there will ever be a D&D 6e? If so, when? Yeah, there absolutely. We know there will be. I won't tell you how we know or why we know, but we absolutely know there will be a 6th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We also were told it'll be backwards compatible, and it's going to be a long time before it comes out. So that is all the information that we have.
So Joseph Hakalani, I apologize, I'm probably butchering that, as he says, how can we help out Nerdarchy with the app development for Android? So
if you are an Android app developer, we can put you in touch with Adam, and you guys can work it out from there. Essentially, to see how that works.
Send us an email with that in the subject, nerdarchy@gmail.com, and we will see how that can get going. So Justin Harris says, a poison spray is a spell-like ability. Does that matter?
You know what? I feel like some of them say you don't need the material, need the components to cast it, and some don't say. Is that accurate?
I think
it varies. Yeah, but.
So if it specifically said you do not need the components to cast a spell, then yeah, you would absolutely be able to do it. That depends too.
And considering how Yuntai Pureblood is kind of broken, I'm going to assume that they don't need them.
I was going to say, are we talking about the PCable race Yuntai Pureblood?
Yeah, the one that's broken.
The one I completely ignore because
Well, so yeah,
I want to have magic resistance, but I know that it's kind of a messed up.
So here's the thing, right? You have the section of actual PCable races, and then you have the section that says these are monstrous ones that aren't necessarily balanced. And, so they give you that disclaimer, and it definitely falls under that category. So if you're already breaking the game, why not? And it depends on it really doesn't matter what we say. If you're allowed to use it, it's what your DM says. In my game, I don't know. If I was going to probably let you use it, I'd probably let you use the poison spray.
Yeah, especially if they spit it. I mean, that just seems thematic. Their mouth isn't bound up when they're grappling, so they're just like, heck, hock a loogie on the guy and bam.
So Bradley is bored. Hey, Nerdarchist, what is each of your favorite elements of fantasy settings? Dragons, magic, gnomes, massive industrial civilizations. You got a favorite thing of playing in fantasy? How about you, Nate?
How about you, Ted?
I don't know if there's any one thing in particular that I really like about fantasy. Like, I like it all. I like magic. Matter of fact, I don't like when people are like, "How do you play this kind of game without this?" I'm like, why would you want to? When people start going minimalistic and taking things out of the fantasy genre and game, I'm like, why would I want to even play that? Or like,
so play fantasy without magic.
Yeah, like it almost becomes like an alternate history. I'm like, ugh, that sounds lame. Or even I know people that play history RPGs, and I'm like, why would you want to? Sounds really lame and boring to me. I play Dungeons and Dragons for a reason. It is for the dungeons and it is for the dragons.
I'm pretty much solid on board with that answer. I like it all. There's times that I want to add the twist, and you put in the airships, or you put in more of the Eberron esque things, like the lightning rails and that kind of stuff. Like you could have a lot of fun with that, and it's still fantasy. It's still D&D. You just have some additions, but I wouldn't have any way of beating to a specific thing.
Let's see.
I like fantastical abilities like magic and psionics. It's pretty much
okay.
That's what I enjoy the most out of the fantasy settings.
Debo, question. Just saw the reviews on your fantastical mounts, which we had like 3 of them come out this week, which was awesome. We want to thank Elfbait, Titan Bear Gaming, and Dawnforge Cast for doing those reviews. We really appreciate them, and they made some really legitimate criticisms and pointed out some things, which was great. So we'll probably make some corrections with that information. But also, what he wants to know is, do you have a favorite, or is it like picking a child? It is, but you always have favorite children. Parents say they don't lie.
Ted,
what?
Everybody's got a favorite child.
Well, everyone has a favorite child.
You never tell anybody it, but you do.
And then there's the other ones that lie about it.
All right. So do you have a favorite mount from Fantastical Mounts?
Well, I did create the Dranthers, but I think I really would like to explore Kangorams.
I love the concept that Titan Bear Gaming said with the Yontai Kangaram rustlers. I think that needs to be a thing now.
Rustlers would be the ones that steal them.
Sorry, Wranglers. Sorry, my
Wrangles was after they rustled them.
So I think that could be something that's pretty darn cool to add into the world. But just for the sheer ridiculousness of it, I got to go with Abizders, and it's because I have this ridiculous story of how I came up with them, and it's from a stupid kids show.
I dig the Kangaram, and I enjoy the Water Strider as well. So those are my 2 favorite.
Some of the reviews were talking about the pseudoscience of how we explain how those things work.
Yeah,
it was just like, it's like, yeah, you've got the science doesn't hold up, but the fact that you've got some kind of explanation.
You can. Cool. I think you can blame Nate for those, because that's his domain. Like if he was a DD, pseudoscience crafting.
Yeah, craft pseudoscience. Oil floats on water. Water bugs float on water. An oily water bug obviously floats on water.
Because I know, like, these guys did all the writing. I helped with some of the conceptualizing. And I'm pretty sure me and Ted are kind of like talking about stuff, and like, we weren't worried about how it actually worked. We're just like, magic, bitches! It's magic!
Now, one of the things Don Forgecast brought up in his review is the Water Strider, reminding him of, there's like, a mount that can go on water that's a bug in WoW.
Yeah.
We're like, we don't play WoW. We don't talk about WoW with other people, so I was like, oh, well, I mean, I know they had some cool mounts, but... Water bug?
I've known people to play WoW. I have not seen WoW in, many, many years. I've never played the game, so...
Sounds like something a bunch of guys that were playing WoW install their stuff would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where this water bug came from. It's just a giant water bug. Come on.
My inspiration for that was water skeeters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I grew up from a lake, when I was a kid, and they would skim across the water. I'm like, what if you could do that, but with like a halfling on it?
Yeah.
Elfbait wants us to create a low-level pirate encounter so he can blame us for it. you would like each of you to suggest a fun encounter of a low-level pirate game so I can blame it on you and get the party off my back.
Okay, so there's this giant red slimy jelly in the sea, and it hangs out on coral reefs and stuff like that. And if your boat gets scratched, the nice new fresh wood gets exposed, and it can infiltrate and start eating your boat. So you have a hole in it, and you also have to fight a whole bunch of red jellies or something.
You said low level, so to me that means, let's go with the ye old classic. You can use goblins or you can use kobolds, but you said pirate. So it's a pirate ship full of these guys, but they don't cooperate at all. They're not very successful. It only takes, a significant amount of luck if they actually manage to capture and plunder stuff, because they fight over who gets to use the artillery. They fight over, who's wearing the hat. So you've got a whole bunch of cool narrative stuff that you can do in the middle of combat, and like only a third of them are going to get attacks off because the others are fighting amongst themselves.
You should do a Jonah and the whale scenario and have their ship swallowed by a Leviathan-like being, and in the gullet they encounter like this junkyard or shipwreck yard of other survivors that are like living there, and then a bunch of role-playing encounters, maybe some combat encounters because maybe there's like gangs down there. And then they have to come up with a way to get out. And I would go with, like, there's some kind of organ or something that they can kind of, like, agitate in order to get, like, sneezed out or thrown up or something along those lines.
You're not going to have them, continue the journey?
Inside the whale? Or the Leviathan?
Meaning, continue.
Oh, no. We're not going there.
That's why I said it very...
Because why wouldn't everybody else have done that? They're trapped. So they have to find a way out. And maybe, like, there's one, like, crazy hermit guy that no one will listen to. And he's the one that actually has, like, figured out the biology of it. Some more pseudoscience for you there. And, they have to basically tickle its tonsils or something like that along those lines to get thrown out.
So Healthbait says, I love hearing your crazy ideas. So Mind Milk wants to know, and, what books we're reading at the moment, fiction, nonfiction. Sub-question, does what you read affect your game?
Absolutely. I just started a new one today.
Which was?
It is. I have to look.
Sadly, I don't have a whole lot of time for reading. I started a while ago the Kevin Hearn series, the Iron Druid Chronicles, and I think I'm on book 4 or 5, but I honestly don't think I've touched it in months. It's sad. We are reading the Percy Jackson Chronicles to my son, but I think that we haven't touched in a little over a week.
I'm reading nonfiction. I haven't even started the book you gave me of the Iron Druid Chronicles. It sounded great, but I haven't even started it yet. It's still sitting by my computer. I'm rereading Blink, which is an interesting book about how your brain can process a whole bunch of information in like a snapshot. And
now, did you pick it up because you thought it was a spell book?
Well, I mean, it's got that kind of quality to it.
Sorry, I couldn't let that one go.
But, like people that you basically like look at something, you make a whole bunch of decisions based on what you see. And that's kind of how that can actually be more true than trying to rationalize through something. And I'm also reading Antifragile, which is by the guy who did Black Swan, which is Antifragile is how there's systems that organize themselves and actually build based on stressors rather than fall apart based on stressors. While like fragile things would fall apart based on stressors, outside stressors, while anti-fragile things would actually grow in strength due to them.
And you?
I'm reading Nothing So Eddie, Super Sales on Superheroes. And it's like basically, so far what I gather is a city has basically falling under the control of supervillains, and they basically run things. And it turns out now the general populace actually likes it better. Like their taxes have gone down, nothing's really changed much for them. And that's where I'm at. Like I just started it today.
Yeah, so now do you guys get influenced by what you're reading?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would say so. For better or worse.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. There's sometimes where I read something and I'm like, all right, I'm can't be influenced by this book because it's like about something terrible or something like that. But
there's times that I've absolutely taken stuff that's happened in novels and things that I'm reading. I try to incorporate that into D&D or into RPGs because it's a lot of fun. Try to draw inspiration wherever I can. So,
Cool, Peter. I'm looking for a cool way to give one of my players the lucky feat. Any cool ways of doing it? How about a peck on the cheek from the luck god?
Or goddess.
Well, I was using the neutral god.
Oh, okay.
Work or they can step in magical poop as long as they don't wipe it off their shoe. They stay lucky.
You could take a drink from a magic well. You could have a chaos storm come by and it's affected all the characters, and that's
4-leaf clover. Chant it 4-leaf clover. As long as they keep it on their person, they get access to the feed.
That's a good one.
you could have 2 puddles, each with 2 identical coins in it, and whoever doesn't touch the mimic and actually grabs the coin is lucky. And it's got some kind of enchantment on it, like maybe you can you flip the coin before you do an activity, and it gives you advantage.
Take this consolation prize, a mimic.
Sorry, you're not so lucky. Here's a mimic.
Oh, that was actually pretty funny. As there was a mimic in my game last night, and I described the chest, and I'm like, Fragment was like, "Oh, there's no way this is a mimic," and he adheres to it.
Jesse Kovacs question: how do you create a character that has entertaining flaws and mannerisms? Well, what do you consider entertaining in what do you consider entertaining? For one, it would be a big part of that, and just do that.
Well, there's a whole section with each of the different backgrounds with the flaws, and you can just grab whatever one makes the most sense. My character in your game, he can't tell a lie. He's no good at it. So it's like every once in a while something comes up and it's like, I can't say anything, because if I do, I'm not gonna be able to say that's
I love role playing. I love role playing low mentals. I think it's fun, and I invariably always use it to metagame.
But you go the other way with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was dying when Jim Davis, when we did our reunion of Season 1, and Jim Davis had a cavern full of brown mold. And I was like, this is the best ever. I strike a torch. To stay warm. And once I get out there, I don't need it anymore, so I throw it behind me for the rest of the party. And as soon as he's describing it and he's describing the cold, I knew right away what it was.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know if the other players realized it or not, but I was like,
they knew as soon as it all went down.
I still don't know if they knew it, but I just wish I would have had more fire.
I only wished I could lit more fires.
They even in the one episode of Critical Role when they encounter the gnolls. Jester's like, oh, they're werewolves. So you could have that kind of stuff where you take it to absurdity and just, okay, well, I'm going to say the thing that's wrong for humor's sake.
Yeah, so I always go with any mannerism or flaw that allows you to metagame against your party to make things more interesting happen. Yeah,
I failed at that yesterday. I was playing my barbarian sorcerer Madras the dragon, and there's a whole slew of zombies, and we start getting into it, and then this wizard comes out of a tent and starts yelling at us like, "Hey, stop hurting my assistants! What are you doing here?" And I had already raged. I'm like, I'm gonna punch the zombie that has stopped because I'm still angry and I don't care what he wants to talk about. I want to kill these zombies. And we're until he starts fighting, he's not a threat to me. These zombies are. They just happen to take a break. So I just punch it. And while he's talking, I just punch a zombie. And then that starts the fight, and I'm like, well, that kind of ruined the ability to. That guy could have gave us a quest, and so it kind of messed up stuff. I felt like rather than. I should have picked the zombie up and threatened to throw it at him. That would have been better. That's what I should have did. So if I could have relived that moment, that's what I would have done. I'm not as skilled at screwing up things for the party on purpose as Dave is to make it look good.
Well, it sounds like you screwed it up just fine for the party.
So Aaron Park says, I recently came across your Nerdarchy Saves the World game, and it looked awesome. I would have loved to play in that one. That was a lot of fun.
It was good. It was a little shorter than it was supposed to be. Then we do like three sessions.
3 or 4 sessions, and Bart
ruined it. Bart ruins everything, just so you know.
Or just Bart, I would
Just
say.
Bart, yeah.
Yeah, but just in case he hasn't watched it all yet.
He wanted to be Just Bart 10,000, but that failed.
He ruined that. It was so going to happen, but he ruined it.
Deba, question. Do you guys have a con schedule posted somewhere? In our minds, I know that's where it resides right now.
Yeah. We do. So, all right. It's here. It's posted here. We're going to Concoction first. Cleveland Concoction first. Next month. You can actually hang out with us there. We're going to do a meetup the night before. I believe that's the 8th. And we have a sign-up sheet. It's actually in the description of this video right here if you're on YouTube watching it, and if you're on one of those other places, you can go, and we ask like 4 questions, guys. There's nothing tough. It's a survey, and one of them is your email so that we can contact you and be like, this is where we're going to be. We know we're going to be somewhere around. Oh, thank you, Elfbait, Super Chat.
For cool encounter ideas, services rendered.
Oh, thank you.
Stop, you're going to give us ideas. No, so, we want to do a meetup. There's a couple, like, gaming cafes that are pretty cool, so we're probably going to go to one of them. Wherever we go is going to be close to where the con is actually going to be. This way it'll be convenient. Then all 3 of us are each running a game, and we're going to do 2 different panels. So that'd be great if you guys would show up and go to the panels, so it's not just us in a room.
That would be very good.
For however long we're supposed to panel for. So that's the first one we're doing. I think the next one coming up after that might be Origins. Then we have Gen Con. Then we have PAX Unplugged.
And you're potentially looking at Gamehole Con?
Yeah, I have to look at the details and see when that is and see how feasible that is to make that one. I would really like to.
So as of right now, all 3 of us are going to be at Concoction.
Yes.
You're going to Origins.
Yes.
You and I are both going to Gen Con.
Doug will also be at those as well. All 3 of those.
And then if PAX Unplugged happens, because we haven't seen any 2018 data yet, all 3 of us will be there.
Yes. And Megan R. Miller should be at Concoction as well.
Yes.
Cool.
So, we're going to have 2 writers, 3 Nerdarchy people. Well, the Prime, I don't know, however you want to differentiate. I don't know. The YouTube people, and then 2 of the people from the website. But then those guys also end up on our videos too when we play games and stuff. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to hang out with them in person and do some stuff. And I don't know. And I guess the general rule of thumb is if we appear someplace and we get enough people there to actually run games for, we will start playing games. So bring characters, bring your books, whatever. Bring your dice. If you want us to deface your books, we'll do that for you too.
Yeah, we travel with Sharpie for those people who are silly enough that want, our autographs.
Which is weird because we're like signing a book that none of us wrote.
Now, there's talk that at some point in time there will be books with the Nerdarchy stamp on it. Those ones totally make sense.
Or maybe we just get a stamp and when they show up with our players' hand, we just stamp random players' handbooks. Hey, why'd you stamp my book and who are you, weirdo? I can just see it now. Kenyatta is, I got a question from Shield Bunny. My group is looking to try 5e for the first time. Tomb of Horror. We are familiar with 3.5. Can you hand down some wisdom, important differences I can look out for?
It's simplified. It's much easier to run 5e and play 5e than it is 3.5.
Yeah, at the lower levels, it can be pretty lethal. For 5e, especially if you're not like familiar with it. Like all of a sudden, orcs become way more dangerous than they ever were. You definitely have to consider keeping a healer's kit on hand for sure. There's less things to track, and the things that you are tracked tend to be the options seem to be like more meaningful. Like where in previous editions a feat meant like a +1 or 2 to some like specific thing. Here, like you take a feat and you get like this whole new handful of things that you can do with your character, and it like really changes it.
Yeah, I've in early days and even just less than a week ago, I've run, and there's a handful of monsters that are a challenge a quarter, a challenge a half, and they can decimate, they can utterly destroy a party if the players aren't hitting and you're doing significant damage. I've dropped players and it's like, oh crud, that was not supposed to happen.
My nephew says, as a word of advice too, if you have small characters in your game, to use frogs, giant frogs.
I've done that.
He's very adamant about that.
My son's first game of D&D, there was a gnome in the party. My son's obsessed with Dragonborn, so it wasn't him, and the gnome just kept getting swallowed.
Oh. Hey, when you're small, everything that's scary can eat you.
So, Buck Cobble, would you allow any UA in those convention games? Yeah, I don't care what you play, to be honest with you.
Yeah, when we're doing one shots and that kind of stuff, like, no, it's basically whatever. I'm not going to allow your D&D wiki stuff. Like, oh, let me play this, first level, dragon warrior who's, you've got the powers of a god at first level. How nice. But Nerdarchy stuff, Unearthed Arcana, those stuff is always legit in our games.
You can even be a full party of lore wizards if you want. I don't care.
Yeah. We'll do a whole party of lore wizard Yontai purebloods.
There you go. Perfect.
I like that.
Perfect.
No,
Fight a whole bunch of things with magic resistance.
No, still
and poison
dino
immunity. Yeah, the still dino works.
At first level. Resist this axe. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Kenyatta dumped the Nerdarchy Discord link in the chat if anybody's interested in joining us out over there. I occasionally make an appearance.
I lurk occasionally. Nate's over there often, I believe.
Oh, at Discord?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm there a lot.
Fragonator wants to know, do they involve white panel vans?
They're not white panel van spots there.
You're gonna have to come out and find out.
Yeah, come attend the convention and see what it's all about.
I mean, I know you're in Washington State. That's not too far.
No.
From Ohio.
Hey, we're going across the country. You can go across the country. My distance equivalency may vary.
Ranger Warrior, everyone play a Mystic. Mystic lure wizards.
Yeah.
Yanti pure blood Mystic lure wizards. And we'll just make them the Gestalts.
Yeah, the Gestalts.
Oh man, I love that. It's totally power gamer heaven. But I thought Gestalts were awesome in 3.5.
I don't know. I never played one.
You only ever ran that game. That's right.
That is true.
Oh, the Gestalts?
Yeah, we did like a mini campaign. Friginator says 22-hour motorcycle ride. Say it's not even a day. You can go straight through on that. Piece of cake.
22 hours on straight on a motorcycle. Oh.
Piece of cake. Yeah, well, the motorcycle's better. I feel like you're probably less likely to fall asleep.
Or when you nod off forever.
You only do it once.
Yeah, you only do it once.
Oh, Elfbait says we need to get our butt to Washington. Eventually, we're going to do the world tour. That's the plan. Probably start with. I don't know if we should start with Canada or end there. We have quite a few friends up that way.
Well, Washington's got AJ the writer. It's got Elfbait. It's got Fraginator.
Right now, all of our cons are in the Midwest and East Coast right now. We're kind of like they're all ones we can drive to. I think Gamehole Con might be in Lake Geneva. I'm not sure. I have to double check. I know I looked at it before, but I looked at that and several other at the same time.
Just in time. Question: what con are you going to in Washington?
I know, that's why I said, yeah.
None as of right now.
Well, I mean, supposedly AJ and Nigel, or Nubs, are heading to the ECCC, however many C's it is.
Emerald
City Comic Con.
City Comic Con.
And they just did one. They just did the Zoe.
The zombie
Yeah.
Orpheus?
So they were over there hanging out. DM Steve says you can stay with me in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Szechuan sauce, Saskatoon.
Yeah, it sounds like a dish I get at my favorite Chinese food restaurant.
Not quite there.
Or everyone just come to NJ and we have our own convention at the boards and call it Nerdarchy's Anarchy.
Now, you guys are more than welcome to,
We almost did have one at the boards. It fell through last minute. It was actually when I was driving out to Origins last year. We had been contacted by someone and they're like, "Hey, we've got this space you can use and it's like unlimited. And we're not going to charge for it until after you have it." So we were like, okay, and they're like, it's going to be anywhere from a nominal charge to free. I'm like, well, that's a big difference, but let me check it out. And I went and looked at it, and they were going to actually give us at the showboat the casino pit floor with the nightclub attached to it. So it was like huge space. I mean, it was wide open, so that part would have been a little bit challenging, but the actual nightclub would have been great for doing like panels in there or workshops. Mm-hmm. And then we would have the big space for vendors and actual games going on. It would have been fun, and it would have been pretty awesome, except for for unspecified reasons the plug got pulled. And so we have no idea what happened with that. So it almost did. We were going to have like 3 or 4 weeks to put it together anyway, so it was going to be really tight.
It was going to be a wild ride, which thankfully we got off of before it got too crazy.
Yeah, it could have been amazing.
So DM Steve, question: have you guys used revenants in the campaign, and how did your players deal with them if they didn't have access to Wish? I did a psionic revenant in the Chaos Wastes in one of my games. And it's actually one of my one-shots. And basically they fulfilled what he was alive for. I mean, like what he had come back from the dead for.
What he was dead for.
Yeah, what he was dead for, they fixed it. And that's how they got through that. So basically, if you're stuck dealing with a revenant and he's not just trying to murder you every time you see him, then you have a little bit of a leeway to figure out, either defeat him and then he'll come back 24 hours later or whatever the time with the clock on it, the reset clock is for him being reconstructed. So you have that time frame, like counting down to when he's going to show up again. You got to deal with him again to figure out like a mystery kind of thing. So
I used a lesser powered revenant, esque kind of thing. I took the ogre zombie and I turned it into a blood zombie when Mark's character died, Taris, and I just kept having him come and attack the party because he died and they didn't save him. Technically, Ryan's character didn't have a healer's kit. He failed his medicine check, and he was kind of with the party, so he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna come after you guys. He was killed by blood cultists, so totally thought it fit. He wound up doing more damage to their horses and their reputation than to those guys. And after a while,
he murdered like 4 horses. Like we couldn't buy horses, and they wouldn't sell us horses anymore.
So after a while, they gave him a proper burial, and that kind of set things right. I had considered revisiting that and having him come back stronger and more powerful, but I'm like, I tortured them enough with Tyrus's character, so
he should be waiting for us in hell.
Oh man, that would be great.
That would be great.
All right, so you guys sound off in the chat, and if I get enough people that say, yeah, bring him back, because he was only like a 3rd level fighter.
And he should be like a spirit horse master or something, like all these dead horses.
So what do you guys think? Weigh in. Should I bring that old PC back to, kind of kick their arses again?
Riding a flaming chariot pulled by nightmares.
It's DM Steve says Comic-Con in April. Honestly, I think for Nerdarchy, we don't really want to go to the like pop culture cons. We want them to be more specific towards gaming.
Yeah.
We want to hang out specifically with our people, and we get to hang out with more of our people by doing that. So even though there might be more people at those bigger cons, there are less people that are the ones that are hanging out with us on our channel and checking on our website and stuff like that. And so we like to kind of narrow it down a little bit. Kyle Ellis, I still want to do a Nerdarchy camping trip in this summer. Yeah. This summer maybe we'll finally get the Nerdarchy together and put together a nerdy barbecue. We had also talked about in the past of maybe doing like it'd be a little bit more of a high-end event, like all-inclusive.
The Nerdcation.
Yeah, Nerdcation, where you just hang out with us for a week and we go someplace to a location, and it might even be a little bit like dorm style accommodations, but for a week you do nothing but play games with us and hang out with us and do cool things. So that is something we thought about. We've got lots of ideas. One day we will start bringing more and more of them to fruition.
Absolutely. Justin Harris says, if you ever come to Washington, I'll buy the first 5 rounds.
Score. I feel like he's trying to get me drunk.
Well, trying to reduce that saving throw.
And then, for Nate, that's going to be like, it's going to be like 7. Me and Nate, it's going to be like 7.5 rounds because Ted doesn't drink.
Well, that's fine as long as we can take his.
He can buy me my iced teas or whatever.
Well, you're a cheap date when it comes to that because they usually free refills. So you only have to buy 1 round 5. All
right, so then
you get 5 of them.
I get 1, you guys get 7.
Oh, there we go. Then we don't have to split a drink.
Yeah, perfect.
So we've got votes for yes, bring him back, further torture, as well as yes, flaming chariots.
Make him the big bad behind the scenes. Can't really do that.
He could be a lieutenant, though.
Riding
That's
a
true.
nightmare-inspired Abysder would be cool from Fragginator.
Oh, how would you make an evil Abysder? I mean, that thing is pretty ridiculous already, so...
You just got to make sure the eyes glow red.
Oh, you need to go more than that.
Give it a go. Oh, you're right. Give it a goatee. Everyone knows
And a
that.
skull cap.
Ranger Roy says to hook you up with Long Island iced tea. One of those and Ted will be crushed.
I haven't had alcohol in, many years.
His liver just instantly explodes. I think Ted's found his save con. His con save. So there's a bunch agreeing with you. They don't drink either, Ted. I don't drink that often. Although I usually will when I go to conventions. So, Casey Emery, hello, my nerdy family. Hello. And there was a question from Aaron Parks. What you guys think of making fallen characters as ghosts that possess the new person they make up? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's actually... I feel like it's almost like a twist on the haunted background from Curse of Strahd. Although I believe that background is lame. Like, you get like one less thing than any other background.
Right.
So I would probably want to adjust that. But, yeah, so you could definitely do that. I think the idea with that one is you were a character that was possessed at some point and now you're like haunted. But I would do it. I'd probably allow it. It wouldn't do anything for you.
Yeah, every once in a while you could just, share, like you'd share the body and that person gets to, like the old personality comes forward and you could change the mannerisms, you could change the voice a little bit and go back to what you were doing before and, really freak out your other players. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially if you were allowed to have knowledge that the other character had, because it's kind of like speaking to you at night or something.
Yeah,
infiltrating your dreams.
It'd be a great way to actually bring up something that only the other character knew. So maybe there was plot information that character had, or something that's like, oh well, this was my original mission, and I want you to fulfill it for me, or whatever. Fun stuff. Let's
see. Kyle Castro Have you ever had to adjust homebrew world map mid-campaign? Not logical layout once the party has explored for a while. If so, how did you, the DM, handle this with your players? How do you handle the map in your campaign, Ted?
Well, I typically run the map as I see it, which does not always meet your version of our map. So until we
or Nate's version of the map.
Or yeah.
So
we have not written a map. We just loosely have an idea that there are things and they're in places. And when we start talking, we realize that none of us think the things are in the same places.
Yeah, everything is like a certain distance away travel-wise. Like, oh, it takes 7 days to get there if you buy wagon or horse. Or like, oh yeah, it's about a half day's travel to the north, I think.
Yeah, we're rather hand-wavy in our DMing.
So, at some point in time, there will be a map of, the Griffin Gaff area, and, we'll have to settle on, okay, well, there's now changes because where Carshapanthon and Crathan Gulch are in relation to Griffin Gaff, how much of a waterway is actually at Griffin Gaff.
I view a triangle. I think they're in a triangle formation. And Carshapanthon is near our major waterway, is like the Nile River, and Griffin Gaff's on it, then Ryler's on it, and then, I had envisioned Drellic, the Kingdom of Drellic, of being inland and landlocked, but Ted moved it to a port.
I put it as a port city.
It was pretty bad. Okay, so when Nerdarchist Ryan was here and we tried to do this, It just meant that we had 4 different maps.
We're getting closer because we decided. I think we officially decided Griffin Gaff is south of Kretschmer's Belt. Yes. Which is our polar region, which runs through the middle of the
polar
world.
Equator. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got that down. It's still cold to the north of where you are in Griffin Gaff.
I had the ocean or the sea being on the west, not the. Actually, Griffin Gaff is on the base of a giant river, but I never think about what's on the other side of the river. It's just like there's a wall of blankness. And no one asks either.
That's true. All right, so we're at a few minutes after 3. Do we want to do one last question? Do we want to call it?
Yeah, we got to do. Let's do 2 questions here. So
okay.
Casey has a question. What is your opinion on living campaigns? Do you have any pointers on how to handle the execution of multiple modules that affect the world?
Yeah, living campaigns, they should all be dead. We should be fighting zombies, nothing but zombies.
Well, currently right now in Chimes of Discordia on our world Altagania, Ted's got his Griffin Gaff campaign. Dave has his Griffin Gaff campaign, and also you also do other stuff in Griffin Gaff, but it's like you kind of inform each other about what happens, and then I cheat it and I just jumped like 1,000 miles east of where you guys are. I'm like, yes, now I don't have to worry about anything that's happening. As long as Dave or Ted doesn't blow up the world, I'm okay.
So basically, how do we do a shared or a living campaign? Poorly is the answer. Poorly.
Well, I mean, you inform each other. I guess if you're just one DM and you've got several different groups going on at once, you can kind of have it influence each other. But I wouldn't necessarily want something catastrophic that the players enact in one of the games to kind of screw up what's going over in the other ones.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Oops.
Unless you could. So at that point, maybe you have like a parallel dimensions happen or something in your mind for that purpose.
I look at when Dave does stuff in his games, I try to say, well, how is that going to influence what I do in mine? And he might do the same thing. I don't know. I know that I've used his Vargarians in my game, and he's used Blood Cultists in his.
They just won't stay in their proper campaigns. Damn them.
So there's definitely stuff going on to mix that. I'm not going to give any big spoilers of major events that have happened, but he made a major event, and I'm like, oh well, I'm going to showcase this in my game. I did a siege in my game, and he's like, well, I don't want to deal with that at all, so I'm just gonna forward you guys a year. I was like, okay.
So that's how we've dealt with stuff. It's different for each. So as for running a living campaign, we're kind of into it, but I can't say that we have really good advice on it. As we figure it out, we'll weigh in.
All right, you got one more thing you wanna answer there, Nate?
Yeah, from Joseph. How do you see augmented reality adding to the D&D experience? I see like doing something like Fantasy Grounds or something like that in in a augmented reality with like everybody's got like special glasses on and you can see your guys in like 3D and terrain.
You
and
know,
stuff.
they
That would be really
I've
sweet.
seen Kickstarters for that where it's like tokens you put out and then you view it through your camera on your phone and it's got like things. So I mean, it's happening now. Like they're working on it. People are working on this, so it's coming.
So I think it'll be cool and interactive.
I think it'd be cool to see.
It really it's like it's almost like the evolution of minis. Really, like where they're gonna start being like tokens and visual things that you're gonna look through. Like you said, either glasses or your phone or whatever. But I guess with that, we'll wrap things up. We still have some things to do, another game to play, and all kinds of nerdy stuff. So until next time, stay nerdy.